Welcome to Nurturing Our Roots from Slavery to Freedom live Zoom session with Antoinette and Karran. We're live every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. The talk show where ordinary people with extraordinary family stories can be heard. If you have a family story and you would like to share it with us, please contact us at nurturingourroots@gmail.com. This is Antoinette, and now I'm going to turn you over to Karran. Hi, Karran.
Hi, Antoinette. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful.
Good, good. It's so good to be talking about women in our own family, but I'm going to pull up something to share so we can give all our viewers just a little bit about what we'll be talking about for this segment of our show tonight. Okay,
All right.
Karran, this
Yes.
is for you.
All righty. Well, hello, everyone. Again, welcome to Nurturing Our Roots. And for those in the chat room, thank you for joining us. After the live show is over, if you want to continue the conversation, just know that you can leave comments below. We're just happy to have you here tonight as we begin to talk about honoring our the women in our Harrell family and honoring the women in your family. When you think about who you are today, for many of us, so much of it is tied to the women in our family. We all have a story to tell, and I know many of you have spent many a day sitting in the kitchen or just sitting around listening to the stories the women in your family have told you. I know I have many, many stories from my childhood, uh, from the women in my family, especially my maternal grandmother and maternal aunts. Those stories definitely shaped who I am today. Who are some of the women in your family? Why don't you type that into the chat? And with this being Women in History Month, let's honor the women in your family by telling their stories. And we'll even share a few of them on the show if you type that information into the live chat. While you're in the chat, if you have not already done so, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that we can notify you of when we have more videos uploaded or more live shows. Again, we are just so happy to have all of you in the chat room. Let us know who you are, and we're happy to have you on the show this evening.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much, Karen, for that. Yes, we're excited to talk about some of those women in our families, and everybody have women in their family that are very strong women, women that we stand on their shoulders. A lot of who we are today is because of the strong women that came before us. Not that we're not talking about the strong men in the family, but because it's Women History Month, we do want to focus on those women that help to shape our lives to be what we are today.
Absolutely. Well,
And
Antoinette, I'm
mhm,
sorry.
go
You've
ahead.
known the women in our family far longer than I have. And I definitely depend on you to, as a woman in history and a woman in our family, to help share some of those Harrell women stories with me, because it will be through you that I learn more about my Harrell women in my family.
Well, thank you, Karen. And I do like to share as much as I can with everyone in the family, because there's quite a few women in the family that I remember. But there's this one photograph that I remember of Aunt Bertha. Now, Aunt Bertha was the youngest sister of your great grandfather and my grandfather. And I do have some beautiful, fond memories of her. She did not have any children, and when she migrated up to Chicago in the 20s and the 30s, I would say the 30s basically, she really financially supported her brothers who had a lot of children. And she took her nieces and her nephews as her own children. What I remember mostly about her is that when we was told that Aunt Bertha was coming for a visit, Karen, it was like the first lady was coming, you know.
Did
Uh,
she visit often?
yes, she did. Yes, she did. I remember going to the train station and picking her up. And what I remember is all her nieces and nephews that lived down south, they would prepare dinner at different houses for her. You know, some would take her out to eat, but when she came home, she was really looking for those home cooked meals.
Antoinette, I'm looking at this photo. Her outfit is impeccable. What does she do for a living? Because those are some fine threads she's wearing.
From what I understood, she was a domestic. You know,
Hmm.
but she was a dresser, you know, and that's where your grandmother get it from, and that's where your great aunt Agame. And so I know that the Harrell women like to dress. And
Antoinette, as I look at her, she reminds me of my great grandfather Shelton.
mhm.
I'm looking at her eyes, and just from her nose on up, it really looks like him.
She also reminds me of your grandmother as well as your great aunt Agame. Um, she was just a woman that was very proper, very, very, very proper. Very, I mean, her etiquette as a woman, as you can see, it was there. And when she would come home, it was like, here it is, grown people would just be like kids. It's my turn to take out. It's my turn to take her. And taking her to the train station, that was a big deal. And she extended the same hospitality when they went to her home in Chicago as well. It was the same. So whenever anyone visits Chicago, they would always go by and visit Aunt Bertha.
What made her move to Chicago?
I've never heard anyone say what made her move to Chicago, but I do know that once Aunt Bertha left, I don't know if it was her two brothers that had left, Henry and Warner, or was it Bertha who left first. But I do know that they are the three that migrated up north. And she had two nieces, including your grandmother, who lived in Chicago a minute with her. And the relative that we just lost, Audra, uh, took care of Aunt Bertha till she died.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. So there was a close relationship with cousin Audra and Aunt Bertha.
Was Aunt Bertha married?
Yes, she was. She was
Oh.
married. Hmm. I never met her husband.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So when she came home to visit, she didn't come with him? Or you just
No,
don't remember?
I've never seen him. He didn't come with her.
Okay.
It was
Was
always
he
just her
from
first.
Chicago? He wasn't someone who moved up there with her, was he?
No one never mentioned him whatsoever. No one ever talked about him.
Well, she was the star of the family.
I just know one thing, she didn't have any children.
Hmm.
That was the thing that really, she just didn't have any children at all. So all of her nieces, especially it was your great grandfather Shelton, my grandfather Jasper and her brother Palmer, those was the one that had the most children. So she
Mhm.
would always send these care packages for the children. She would always bring presents when she visit. It was just a beautiful time.
That's
And
wonderful.
she made it her business to come home.
Oh, man, I wish I would have met her.
Such a darling. She was such a sweet person. Very
Um,
sweet person.
when did she pass? Like, around what year?
If I can remember correctly, it was in the 90s because I went to her funeral.
Wow.
She was the last, she was the last one to pass away. And I remember that. And I remember she's buried over there in Big Zion Cemetery where Alexander is buried at. And we had a headstone made for her grave. And it wasn't until I was looking at a photograph. And when I looked at that photograph, I realized where my mom was standing at. And that's how now I can identify where that headstone needs to be placed at.
Wow. Well, she is definitely someone I'm glad we're talking about as we honor women in History Month.
You know, Karen, she had a sister, and her sister Ella, and I do want to talk about her a little bit as well.
Okay. Did you ever meet Aunt Ella?
No, I did not. She, matter of fact, when she passed away, I was a little girl, so I don't recall meeting her ever, you know. But she was the picture lady.
Oh, she collected photos and took lots of pictures.
She had people, according to the oral history of my cousin Joanne, Lewis Frazier, she said that what she remember about her, she was always sickly and she was in this room, and the room had like a fireplace or something. And she was always in the bed. So whatever she was ill with, it kept her in the bed. But she would always ask people to send her pictures. So I guess her way of seeing the family was through photographs.
That's amazing. Just looking at her picture, um, does this part of our family have any Native American? Because she looks like she has a little Native American look to her.
I know, but I do know that her mother was mulatto,
Okay.
and her father was African American.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I don't know of any Native American
mhm.
lineage DNA on that side of the family.
Okay. She's a pretty lady,
Yes, she is.
really
And
pretty.
I'm just very honored for the legacy that she left us today, you know, with those photographs that Montera has, because it was passed down. I remember this is what I was told. The pictures was passed down from Aunt Ella to a lady we call Cousin Gert.
Mm.
We never called them by their first name like people do today.
Mhm. Right, right, absolutely. No.
Oh, absolutely not. It, you know, you as the people would say back in those days, you have to put some gravy to that name, you know. So we
My
all
mama used to say, "You better put a handle on my name."
that's right. That's right, right, right. Um, it wasn't long ago, there's a cousin, and he's in his 50s, and he would address like some of the older people by their name. And I just really had to say something about that because we wasn't raised like that. We better not have called your grandmother Marion.
Right, right. We don't do that.
Oh no, you know, it was always cousin Marion.
Mhm.
You know? And when you think about it, um, your great aunt cousin Augame, she was in her 90s, so we better not say Augame. The first
How
thing,
would anybody fix their mouth to do that?
but this generation is like that. You
Yes.
know, and I guess some people can call their mother by their name. We wasn't allowed to
Mm,
call my mother Isabel.
no,
No, you
mm,
know. So
no.
we always addressed her as cousin Gert. So the photographs was passed down from Aunt Ella to cousin Gert. And when cousin Gert passed away, my uncle Raymond got the photographs. When he passed away, his daughter got the photographs. And I'm so glad she did, because she shared a lot of those photographs with us.
And I'm thankful for those photographs as well, because I've been able to see some photographs of my dad and my grandmother in those photographs, and my great grandfather.
Speaking about photographs, I just came across some photographs of your father just the other day. And
Oh, some
yeah,
more? Some more?
yes, and it wasn't long ago, Karen. Was this last summer when we had our cousins to come down and visit the South?
It was
And
the
your
summer of
Aunt Carmen,
2019. Oh, yep,
you remember
Aunt
that?
Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my Aunt Carmen is my young cousin, my young auntie. Think she's about 7 years older than I am, but she's still Aunt Carmen to me.
Mm-hmm.
She's never just Carmen.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so she had a box of photographs. Can you tell me, what did you find in that collection? And do you still have the photographs?
I still have the photographs. They're like almost behind me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I should have put them right here on the desk with me. But in those photographs, I found the most beautiful photo of my grandmother that I was
Mm-hmm.
able to upload to a Facebook group that touched up the tear across the front of her face.
Oh,
And
really?
it is I still have the original, but now to have it digitized, it is definitely one of my most treasured images.
Do you have it where you can share it with us and let us see it?
I will pull it up. I will definitely do that.
And in the meantime, okay, I found it. Hold on, Karen. Don't
Okay,
cut
okay.
this one. That one. Is that the one you're talking about?
That is the photo. Now, do you have the repaired version of it?
No, I do not.
I will pull up the repaired version of that photo. That photo
And what
is
I like about this particular photograph, 3 generations,
mm-hmm, absolutely.
3 generations. That's beautiful.
That is okay. I'm gonna share it right now. I think I'm doing this right. This
Oh,
is
wow. They did a
the tear is
wonderful
gone.
job.
Yes, the tear is totally gone.
They did a wonderful job at cleaning up the picture, the image.
They really
Ki-
did. And as I tell you, it is one of my most treasured images from getting that collection of photos. I still need to digitize all of them, but having them, it just brings joy because obviously, I never saw my grandmother at that age.
Mhm.
And I just feel like you get to know your family members by seeing those old family photos like that. Um, I
Yeah.
it's it is just truly, truly um because I didn't grow up that very close to that part of my family. And to have images like that, it really, really means a lot to me.
And Karen, when we think about those family members, that the women in our families that help us to be the strong women we are today, is because we had to see a strong woman. There had to be an example. And I feel like my mother was truly that example, because my mom, she was a single mother after her divorce, never remarried. But I don't ever remember a time of not, having a place to stay and food to eat and, shelter and clothing, and gifts for the holidays. I don't ever remember. And sometimes I think back now and ask, how did she do it? Because the meals that she cooked, they was tasty. I mean, it was like love when it put on pots. And so sometimes they they may have they may have thought that we wasn't paying attention to them, but a lot of my characteristics now, is because of my mom, you know, being
Mhm.
responsible. One of the things that I learned from her is being responsible, you know, taking accountability, um, making sure that you put what you need before what you want, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you
I
had to pay
I
your
have
utilities, you pay your utilities, you don't go out and have a party.
right, right. We just learned how to be strong women because we had examples of strong women.
And we need to recognize those women, you
I
know.
have another picture from that collection. I'm not going to
Mhm.
tell you what it is. I'm just going to share it. I think you will
Okay.
appreciate this.
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I
Yes,
do. Look how young your grandmother was, and look who she's with.
I know my aunt said that she worked in a law office, and Coretta Scott King came and visited that law office.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Yeah,
That was in that box of pictures.
yes, yes, yes. Cousin Marion always kept a smile on her face and long fingernails. That's what I remember.
Oh, okay.
Always, always. And
And
she always tinted her hair blonde. Always from
oh,
day. I've never seen her without it.
that is the one memory I have of my grandmother is the blonde hair. The blonde,
Yes,
and you know, my Aunt Carmen is kind of following in her mom's footsteps.
without even realizing it, huh?
Yeah, and it looks good. Maybe it looks so good on them.
hmm And you know, your grandmother was never a woman over, I would say, 110 pounds.
Yeah,
Very slender. And she got that from her parents because both of her parents were slender.
yeah. I mean, I could tell from the photos. I never got to meet them, but I could tell
Mm,
from the photos that it was just a slender line of people.
Yeah, I remember in 1966 going to the funeral. Where was the wake at that time? Because we went to the funeral home of your grandfather, your great grandfather. I remember that. hmm I think that was my first time seeing a deceased person. That was the first time I could recall a funeral. And I remember that long drive from Amid to New Orleans, you know. hmm But
Um,
I didn't, I don't have any memories of your great grandmother at all.
mhm. Ada Nolan.
None at
Yeah.
all.
Well,
hmm
I think we have Montera in the chat room. She says, glad I could share the photographs. Thank you,
Oh, thank
Montera. We
you,
are so glad
Montana.
you could too.
Yes, yes. And the thing that I want to point out about the collection that Montero has, she is taking very good care of that collection. I mean, she valued that collection. She really take care of that collection, and not it's not a lot of times you find people doing that, Karen, taking care of the collection. And I just want to point out something here with a photograph of Montero. Here it is. Let's pull that up. She had them in a protected cover because I'm gonna tell you, when her father died, a couple of family members went to the house. And I don't know why people feel the need that when someone passes away, that if you are sharing memories of that person through photographs, they disappear. And some of her photographs disappeared.
Mm,
So now she can, because at first it was just in a box. She didn't have them really organized. So when she put them in the album with the sleeves that she can insert the photographs into, she was able to keep up with those photographs. And so Aunt Ella had a rich collection. My mother, when I tell you, my mom had a rich collection of photographs. I have a bag right here that I have to go through. And this bag is full of photographs. So my mother was another person. I found a photograph of my grandfather in her collection. So what I'm doing right now, I am going to give everyone the photographs who I think should have it. Like for instance, I found some of your father, your family. I'm going to give them to you because when I scan them and I use them electronically for whatever I need them for, I don't put them in one place. I have them in several places.
Yes.
So I can go ahead and give the originals. I have some of Montera's father in that collection. And so that's why I chose to talk about these women in our family, because these women are those that help to keep our history alive through photographs, through oral history. And that's, everybody wants photographs.
Yes. Yes. Um, Before my aunt Ogame died, I had the opportunity to meet with her. Let me share that photograph. Thanks to my
Mhm.
aunt Carmen, aunties are the best. Let me just tell you. Thanks to my aunt Carmen, I was able to go and
Oh,
meet
wow.
with Aunt Ogame.
Was
Um,
that your first time meeting her?
it was, and this was about a month before she passed.
Mhm, mhm.
And I'm just so thankful for this opportunity to meet with her. Again, she
Mhm.
got that. I guess that's the Harrell look. I could see
Yeah,
Aunt Bertha
you can
in her.
see, right, you can see it, huh? The older she
Yes.
became, the more she looked like Aunt Bertha. I wanna share a photograph of you with you, of,
Okay.
um this is a photograph of our family member who just passed away. But now let me also tell you that, let me go through this, get this one. All right. That's the Harrell family there.
Oh
And the one
wow.
that passed away on the back, that's cousin Audra.
Mm-hmm.
My Uncle Raymond and Montera's father would always make sure we went up to Chicago that we spent time with cousin Audra. She
Wow.
was such a beautiful soul. So this is two sisters on the back, and wait, this is three brothers, two sisters and one brother. All right. And on this looks like, oh, that's cousin Augame, and that's Mary, cousin
I was
Mary.
gonna say that must be my grandmother with that
That's
white
your
hair.
grandmother. Yes, that's your grandmother.
Oh,
So
look at
the
Aunt
siblings,
Ogame.
yes, you
Wow.
see her?
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Gwen, and this is cousin Arthur's son Michael and his wife, and cousin Arthur and his wife. Now, cousin Arthur, out the three of them, these are the ones that was left. So we lost him a month before we lost my mom, and then we lost her
Mhm.
yesterday. So
Oh,
that's
may
only
she rest in
one
peace.
one family member out that group, and that is cousin Bobby.
Wow.
Hmm.
Antoinette, when they would go up to Chicago, were they taking a train or were they driving or
No,
flying
they
or
was
what?
driving. I know.
Wow.
Um, Let me tell you, we drove, and Montero can tell you this. When you drive with my Uncle Raymond, he had his favorite gospel music, and that's all you listened to. You
Mm.
didn't listen to anything else. This is cousin
Oh.
Audra right here.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we when we went up there, she took us out, and so yeah, this is cousin Audra, my youngest son Bernard, and
Mhm.
I, when we
Wow.
visited her in Chicago. She was such a beautiful person. I was reading something that Montero said about her, sweet lady. Yeah, she really was. And she lived to be in her 90s.
It's
I
wonderful.
think 90 years
Wonderful.
old.
Well,
Mm.
Antoinette, you have a compliment from the well, a comment and a compliment. Montera says he drove slowly too.
Cause she had to drive.
And also, Salvatrice Hutton says, "Good evening, ladies. Dr. Harrell's book, African Americans in Tangipahoa and St. Helena parishes is such a substantial piece of genealogy. I highly recommend it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That is so sweet of her. That
Yes,
is, thank you so much for that. And
yeah.
here's one for you, Karen.
Oh, Aunt Olga May and my grandmother again.
Yes, look at that.
Two
Those
sisters.
two, you could not separate those two. Where you saw
Yeah,
one, you saw the other. Now look at your grandmother, how slim she was.
I'm
I
looking
don't
at
care.
it.
I don't care what she ate, as much as she wanted to eat, she never gained a pound.
I used to be
I
like
wi-
that up until like 1987, a year after I had my son.
I wish, Karen, I wish. I mean, she just stayed that way. And
Wow.
see that smile on her face? Now, if
Mhm.
you look at her, I'm gonna see if I can pull Aunt Bertha's picture up at the same time.
Yeah, that would be great because I could see the
You
resemblance.
can see the resemblance of them. Let me see if
The
I think.
Harrell women.
Mhm. No, it won't let me.
Yeah, you probably have to unshare it and then pull it up to on your screen and then share your whole screen once you get it set up.
Okay, let me see. All
Uh,
right, I know what I can do.
but
No.
they definitely favor. And I'm coming into seeing this part of my family late in life, but I'm so thrilled, and to have so many people share, uh, not just the images but also the stories, and of this part of my family.
Isn't that beautiful to see that?
It really is.
Mhm.
It really is.
And so that's why we have to really honor those strong women, you know, because no, they're not the women that went out and did great things. Some of them was domestics, but it doesn't matter. They did what they had to do to provide
Well,
for their families.
that's what I was going to say. Let me just tell you, domestic work is still work. It's honorable work, and it is work that put lots of people through college. It took care of families, and I know that my grandmother did domestic work, and there is no shame in that.
That's right.
Uh,
That's
and you could just tell just the way these women carried themselves. They absolutely had high standards.
okay. Now I couldn't share. Maybe
Mhm,
you, I don't know if I can, but anyway, when we think about that smile on your grandmother's face, and
mhm,
especially cousin Augame, look at Aunt Bertha so you can see that strong resemblance there.
mhm.
You know,
Wow.
and
I
and
I
what I
wish
like,
I had met her.
what I like about these women, the standards that they set.
Yes.
See, I didn't care. It didn't. It really didn't matter what they did. I just know that I've never heard them use vulgar language. I've never. They separated adults from children.
Mhm,
We just knew to respect them. It was not even, it was like first nature, not even second nature, first nature.
mhm.
Now you don't see that. And that's what I'm afraid of, what I see now. Um, Karen, I wouldn't trade my childhood growing up for nothing in this world with the younger generations, because
Mhm, mhm.
it's not a day go by I don't think about my grandmother, my aunts, um, aunties that married into the family. You just had respect.
Right.
you know, you just knew sometime, certain dresses you wouldn't even wear. Like if you had a dress that was too short or exposing yourself, they would tell you about that
Mhm.
in a loving way too, Karen. It wasn't anything to bash you, but it was just done in loving ways. It was grandmother's hand. That's what it reminds me of, those loving hands. Um, and we knew at that time that they loved us because it was guiding us.
Yes.
And someone said the other day on Facebook, you didn't talk back. Whatever I mean, you could be in your 40s. And if somebody in their 70s was talking to you, I don't care. You never got that grown where you can just disrespect the elders.
Correct.
It was a beautiful way to grow up. It was a beautiful way to grow up.
I have another photo I'm gonna share.
Mhm.
I think you gave me this photo. Again, I'm not gonna tell you what it is. I'm just gonna share it and let you be surprised.
Mhm.
Um, and again, I so appreciate all the photos you've shared with me because I would not have seen this side of my family.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that
Here's
picture.
my grandmother in white and Aunt Agame in the pink.
Mhm, and that and the lady standing next to your grandmother in the middle, that was cousin Marshall's wife and my
Okay.
mom on the end.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
my mother on the end, so
Look
that
at
was first
her.
cousins, and Gwen was always with them. Gwen was always with that crowd, always.
Well, I don't know exactly what the occasion was, but I would love to have that outfit my grandmother have just to like just have it
I
preserved.
love that hairpiece she has on. You see
Yes,
that?
yes. Uh,
And Karen, I remember cousin Augame was crowned as the queen.
okay.
And it was at that time, Miss Sidney Bartholomew. I remember him escorting her, you
What?
know. Yeah, I remember, and I have photographs of that. So you see, she has a crown on, right? I
I
remember
see
that.
she has her crown on.
You see that? And her rose in her hand?
Wow. So that was not that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
Oh my.
I was at this event and I took the picture. But your grandmother is clean, huh, girl?
Looking at that, I mean, where do you even go to buy a headpiece like that?
I don't know, but that was her.
Oh wow. I
And my
was so
mother said she
impressed.
was always like that. Even when she would visit the country, they would call it, well, visit Amen. Oh no, she wasn't washing the dishes, and nor was she gonna do any field work. Mhm.
Well, I think, she's like, "Okay, I'm not working right now, so I'm not doing
Yeah,
that."
she just didn't, you know. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of fond memories of your grandmother and your great aunt and your great uncle Johnny too.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, yeah.
he was such a beautiful person, a very gentle man, always dressed, very soft spoken, um, very loving kind of person, you know. The Harrells was very, very mild tempered people, you know, very.
And the fact that they all live together, not all adults can live well together. And they lived together until the end, until Katrina, as adults, they all lived together. Um,
And they went to Chicago. Cousin Johnny went by his daughter, Joy. But your grandmother and cousin Augame went by cousin Audra, the one that just passed away.
mm,
Hmm.
yes. Well, it's so wonderful to have memories of the women in our families because they really helped us to understand how to carry ourselves. And even though I didn't grow up with this part of my family, I grew up with my maternal grandmother and my mom, maternal grandmother, and one of her sisters, Aunt Dorothy. We call her Nan. She was my brother's Nan, and since my brother was the oldest, I guess all the kids who came afterwards,
Yeah.
we just called her Nan. And they were just like my grandmother Marion and Aunt Agame. They were two peas in a pod, inseparable sisters.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they taught me so much. That's where I get my cooking gene from because they would cook for the whole family and everybody would come over and I'm the only one with Nan's bread pudding recipe.
And you get it from both sides because your father was the same way. In the latter years, when cousin Augame and them had got up in age and they couldn't do it anymore, your father was the one that would cook like the Christmas dinner, and they would go over and have Christmas dinner. They always came over to us on Thanksgiving. That I remember that, you know.
I
But
guess it just goes to show you it's in the DNA as
in the DNA.
it's
Mhm.
nature and nurture.
But they would. Let me tell you something. They would always visit my mother around 10:30, 11 in the morning on a Christmas morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was her birthday. So they would always find their way uh, over there. And me and my brothers had to help out whether we wanted to or not. That's what mom wanted. So, she enjoyed cooking for everybody and having people to come over and taste her delicious strawberry cake, which I wish that I would have learned how to make. But I think if I had to look at one person who reminded me of them with their temperament, it's Montera.
Oh,
Quiet, uh, well spoken. Montero remind me of them a lot. Just
wow.
her demeanor.
Well, I can't wait till this doggone pandemic is over with so I can meet cousin
Yeah,
Montera in the flesh. I feel
yeah.
like I know so much about her just from, Zooms and the sharing of the photos and the stories that you tell. Um,
Because your grandmother wasn't a very talkative person. She was not. You know,
okay.
she would she once she speak to you, if you talk to her, but other than that, she would just sit there and smile. She would sit there with her legs crossed and her fingers and her hands like this. This is
Just taking it all in.
yeah, but she was not a talkative person.
hmm What
Hmm.
about Aunt Olga May?
Uh, okay, cousin Agame was the talkative person.
Okay.
She would talk more than anyone else. Her and cousin Juanita, those two was the ones that engaged. But cousin Johnny and cousin Marion, they was really quiet. Just something like Montero, just quiet. Don't have to say anything, but they're there and they are, part of the family. Happy to be a part of the family, but you're not. And let me tell you something I also remember that's very important. They was not gossiping women at all.
Interesting. Okay.
At
So we
all.
weren't going to learn any family secrets from sitting under them.
Absolutely no. You was not. If something took place, you best believe it didn't go outside of those women.
Mm, wow, that's wonderful.
I
Well,
remember.
Cousin Montera is still in the chat room. Thank you so much for all that you do, Cousin Montera.
Yeah, yeah. She reminds me of them, just the way she carry herself.
Mhm.
And that's and we have another cousin, Wanda. Um, she remind me of them too. You know, just strong women. And Karen, we have to say, in our family, we have strong women. We have determined women. We have assertive women. We have women that you know carry themselves in a respectable way. You know,
And that is so important for the young ones coming behind them
to know that.
to
Yeah.
know how to behave,
Hmm.
or how to carry yourself. Because
Hmm.
now you can't say you didn't have an example.
Right. We had examples
Hmm
and we had a lot. And the thing about it is, Karen, we had a lot of them. I I couldn't even imagine our aunts and women relatives getting on the floor dancing, backing it up. We would be like, no, no, she didn't. No, you would never see that. You would, and I tell you what too, and they bet not catch you doing it.
hmm
You see, that was the thing. Now, if they caught you doing that and the word got out that that's what you did, then not only did the women call you to the side, but so did the men.
hmm hmm
And so you didn't have it coming from one. You had it, if you could imagine 15 of your mother's first cousins, and every time somebody see you, they got something to tell you.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I heard what you did. That's not ladylike, and your reputation is very important, and you need to carry yourself better than that.
Mhm.
it wasn't nothing long, but it's what they said,
They were clear and to the point.
clear and to the point. And I expect better of you.
Mhm.
That's the way. And so we have to continue. We
Absolutely.
we are those women now.
It's hard to believe that we are the elder women in the family, but we are. We are. And we have to set the example and share the family history so that those who come behind us will have the benefit of what we've experienced.
And those are beautiful memories. My tears are tears of joy,
Mhm.
and my tears are tears of appreciating those strong women. And it didn't matter to us if they was women who achieved master degrees, PhDs. They was mama, you know. When you walk through that door or when you enter that house, you can feel the warmness of that house. You can smell the aroma of food. You can look at that woman and you see this graceful woman, you know. And so they are the sheroes for me.
And every family has them.
Right.
If you just stop and think about the women in your family and the impact that they had on your family, that's a message to everyone who's watching this broadcast. Look for those people and honor them, those women, and honor them, uplift them. Make sure you have their photos in prominent places in your homes, tell their stories.
Mhm.
uh Women in History Month is not just about those women who did great things, not only about those who did great things in terms of career wise, but it's about the great things they did just by making sure that you're a good, decent human being.
Oh, that's more than money can ever buy. When you think about when I think about the strong women in our family, I'm reminded of a woman that can take anything and make a delicious meal out of it.
Hmm.
You know, a woman who can take rags and make the most warm blankets out of it. You know, and those women may not have had two pennies to rub together, but you would have never known that because they didn't talk about it. They had pride with them. You know, they had pride, and we're just blessed. And I feel sorry for this generation right now, Karen, because when I look at some grandmothers out there, ooh, I
Hmm.
be thanking the Almighty that my grandmother, my mom's mother, she was the one who set the standards. The standards went on to her daughters, and they passed it on to their daughters. And her sons passed it on to their daughters.
One of the things, just speaking genealogy wise, it's always frustrating that so many of our women get lost in the records. So if you're doing your family tree, please put the women in there with their maiden name.
That's so important.
Uh,
Hmm.
because that's another way of honoring the women
Hmm.
in our families, is making sure they appear in your family tree with their maiden name,
Hmm.
because otherwise they will be lost in the records.
And I also want to point out to people that's doing that genealogy, please do not judge. Like sometimes they'll find that their great grandmother could have been married 3 times and have 3 sets of children by each marriage, but you don't know the circumstances around things at that time. Just be grateful that she chose to have all of her children, and that that's the one thing that we want to always remember. is to respect whatever you find and don't judge it. Just know that they was women too, and they had to make decisions back there. It wasn't easy, But one thing I know, I remember this very well. When I hear women say right now that, a good man is hard to come by, I remember a time in my lifetime when women who probably some of them had 10 children, and the person who they married, that wasn't his children, but he became the father, you
Hmm.
know, and that's because the women at that time made sure that the children respect that person. And you know what? And that person stepped into that father's role. It wasn't just about he can provide for you, but he can't tell your child right from wrong. So we have to look at the past and say, well, how is it that women back in those days was able to get, you know, a good husband with 10 children, 8 children, 7 children, and none of them was his.
They were good women.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
good women.
hmm there was women that, if a person sees somebody really trying, they really, really, they're struggling, but they're really trying. They're putting their children first. They're not putting themselves first. People watch that. They watch that.
Absolutely. And we were not there. So there's just no need to judge whatever their situation was.
hmm
The fact that we are here now means that they were doing the best they could, and they did a
With
great
very
job
little.
at it.
Caring. They did so much with very little. When you look at it now, the fast food chains is what the children eat. We grew up on hot food, oatmeal, grits, home cooked food. When we went to school in the morning, you didn't stop at a store because you had just eaten breakfast. And now kids can go to school with all kinds of potato chips and all that. That was unheard of.
I
So
have a very fond memory. I don't know if you remember when you were in school, but there would be a spring picnic. Every spring, near the end of the school year, there would be a picnic. And when our school went on that picnic, my mom would get up early in the morning and she would fry chicken so that all of us would have fried chicken to take with us on that spring picnic. My
wow,
mom had 6 kids, okay?
wow.
Plus, she had 3 cousins living with us.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of chicken frying early in the morning and
Wow.
packing up our lunches.
Wow. What
That's
I
love.
remember about my mom is Sundays, Sunday dinners. There was always a tasty dinner and dessert.
Hmm.
you know. I remember she would take the blackberries and make the best blackberry cobbler. Oh my God. So it's just those things that you remember when you think about how they survived. You know, if they bought you clothes from a Goodwill, you believe they washed, they ironed it. Nobody could tell that your clothing came from the Goodwill. But those was very resourceful women, and we need to
And
be
many
grateful.
of them worked jobs outside of the home in
That's
addition to
right.
doing all that.
That's right. That's right. So I think not taking away from women on a national level, but I still think that we need to honor women in our own family, because sometimes we wait until that person is deceased and we say all these things about that person at a funeral, you
Right.
know, but we need to let that person hear, let women in the family know we appreciate you. We appreciate your strength. We appreciate all that you have given. And I think that needs to be a men's history month, so that we can focus on the strength of the men. You
And
know,
Antoinette, I'm just so glad that we're focusing on the women in the family because that also emphasizes family.
yes.
Um, that, you know, yes, there will always be men and women who do great things in history.
Mm-hmm.
But I always say that our family history is a part of American history.
Mm-hmm.
And so honoring the women in our family is putting them in their rightful place in history. People always here in New Orleans, we always talk about culture bearers. Well, part of women uh, are the root of the culture here in this city.
Mm-hmm.
And we contribute so much to the culture, and not, the culture of our families, as well as the culture of our community.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
part of history.
Mm-hmm. I remember one day I had to go on a trip for 3 days, and I remember my son, when I came home, my youngest son said, "The house is not the same without when you're not here." And so that presence of that mother is very strong in the household. Um, and we need to recognize what women bring, what the women, the very simple things we take for granted, like, a clean home, a nice home environment, beautiful curtains. You don't think about that until you grow up.
Or
But
even structured routines,
yes.
just how the household runs.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
not by accident.
No, it's not by accident. And if it wasn't for those women, we wouldn't know how to run a home. We wouldn't know. But we do it because we saw somebody else do it. You
Hmm.
know, we was taught to pay our bills on time so that you don't incur all those late fees. And those are things that is very important. And so for that, I would like to say, for all the women in the past and all those that is with us and all those that is yet to come, we honor those, the bloodline that carry our DNA. We salute those strong women.
and and Antoinette, and I know we talk about her all the time, but it's also thanks to you that I even know anything about Grandma Emma
Yes.
as a
Yes.
strong woman, a woman who had a business mind as well as taking care of her family.
Thank you for mentioning that, Karen, because she bought land in 1896 when women didn't even have a right women didn't have rights to vote. And grandmother Emma was making headway. And when I found that she opened a succession on her son, I think it was 1940s to early 40s, because she died in 48. But she had opened a succession on her son. That was almost unheard of, coming from a woman in a rural area, but she had some ingenuity to move around. That told me she had to know how to read and write to some extent, because she just was a businesswoman.
Yes, yes. And for her property to still be in the family today, it's just amazing.
Yes, it is. 1896. And we just salute that strong woman. It was one person that remembered her. It was cousin Dan, who lives in Milwaukee. And he passed away. He remembered riding on the wagon and the mule with her, going to sell her produce. And she would pack lunch, and she would put water in cold water in a jar, and just put the top on it, because if they was traveling, if, let's say for Hammond, that was a distance. You traveling by mule and wagon. Hammond for me in a cart is 30 miles. So can you imagine? And they met on a mule and a wagon.
Wow,
That was an all day trip.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and he said they would make that trip, and she would go and sell her produce, and she wasn't taking any wooden nickels. That's what he said. She wasn't taking wooden nickels at all.
Wow, what a memory.
Yes, yes. So to all the women out there, before our closing, before my co-host close you out for tonight, we salute you, we honor you, and just keep being that beacon of light and hope for all women, for all women. And so the women in your family, honor those women right now. because tomorrow can be too late.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Antoinette, and thank you to everyone in the chat room. I see we have uh, Javon Joy talking about Victoria Harrell from Macon, Georgia. I
Oh,
wonder if that's our cousin.
isn't that something, huh?
Yes, and
Mhm.
my auntie Selena's son, Yashibi Israel, in the chat room. Good to see you, cousin.
Hi,
Thank you for
cousin.
thank you for joining us, and of course, Montera and everyone in the chat room. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time here on Nurturing Our Roots. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our shows. And until next time, we'll see you later.